Hey, I'm Zach. I'm a performance and leadership coach with Create Purpose, and I work with a lot of sales professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners, and just people who desire to live a high performance life and want to create the results they desire. So over the last week and over the upcoming several weeks, we're going to be doing some discussions around productivity. And my goal is to show you 4 simple ways that you can be more productive and less overwhelmed. And last week, if you didn't watch that video, I think we hit on a very important topic, and that is how to manage the flow of all the stuff that tends to hit us as leaders, as parents, as just humans, right? In today's age, like, there's so much coming at us. And so I covered a lot in that last video, so if you haven't already, go check it out. But don't leave me yet. Go ahead and let's watch today's video. And so the idea here is we all have goals. We all have things we want to get accomplished. We have very important things that we want to get accomplished. But so often we get wrapped up in the whirlwind of our businesses, of our lives, we've all the stuff. And we don't really make the progress that we want to make. We don't, a whole year will go by and we'll do our little annual reflection, around the new year, and we will kind of look back and be like, you know what? I was busy as heck, but I didn't really move the needle on the stuff that I wanted to. Has that ever been you? I can say I've been there, right? The year, for some reason, the year just took off, and before you know it, it's over. Right? Every year goes by faster and faster. We all say that. And yet you're no further along. You might even solve a whole bunch of problems, and your business internally is running much smoother, but are you any further towards what you want to create? That is ultimately the question. In many years, many times, time will go by. Heck, weeks will go by at least, right? A week will go by where you're like, shoot, what did I really get accomplished? Ooh, I'm tired, busy, but what did I get accomplished this week? And good for you if you have the self-awareness to pause and be like, ooh, I didn't get what I wanted to accomplish this week. And if that's ever been you, then tune into these videos, because I think we're going to cover some simple things that you can put in practice that will definitely help you move forward in a much more productive way. What is productivity? We said it's not doing more. Productivity is not doing more. That's not the goal of productivity. The goal of productivity is really, what's the minimum that I can do to get the maximum results? That is what productivity is all about, and that's what we're covering in these videos. So today, I want to talk a little bit about where to go from the last training. So last training, we talked a lot about how to handle the inflow and all the inputs that hit us, all the to-do lists and stuff, right? And the last concept that I did share with you in the last video was getting a parking lot. So today I want to talk a little bit about, well, how do I know what to put on the parking lot and what to actually prioritize, right? Because there's this idea that to accomplish goals, we must prioritize. Cool? So the key word here is focus, right? How do we focus our time and energy so that we can get the maximum results with the minimum effort? Productivity, right? And so how do we know what goes on the parking lot? Because so much comes at us on a day-to-day basis that if all we do is like try to get it all done, then we've fallen into the do more to be more trap. We just have. I mean, you're a hamster on a wheel just trying to keep up with all the stuff, but you're not moving forward. Has that ever been you? Okay, so the goal isn't to do more. And we need an inbox. We need something that captures the stuff so that we at least don't lose track of what's important. But it's a personalized inbox. It's your inbox. No one else but you is allowed to put things in your inbox. So the parking lot, what do? How do we know what goes in the parking lot? Well, you focus. You know what it is that you want to get done, and you learn to say this word to everything else. And this word is no. To really move the ball forward and achieve a lot in your life, in your business, you also have to say no to a whole bunch of things. You just do. And that can be hard for a lot of us. A lot of us see all these opportunities. We're creative and we're just business ideas just oozing out of us, right? And it's so hard to not act on them. It's so hard to not act on them. It's so hard not to have your team act on them, right? Maybe you're the leader that's like, ooh, do this, do that, do this, right? And before you know it, everybody's like, oh my God. Like, stay away from that guy, because every time I see him, I leave with 10 more action items. And I want to ask you, is that productive for your business? I don't think so. I think you're just delegating, you're overwhelmed to everybody else. And that's probably not helping. And so the key word here is no. To get done, to be productive, a key element of productivity is saying no to a whole bunch of things. And this is so important, but it's not easy. It's not easy, right? It's so hard because, like I said, we see opportunities all over the place, and everything we hear about and think about, it has some legs. You know, it actually could be something. But when you have a really big vision and have a real clear picture of what you're creating, then it gets a little bit easier to say no, right? You know, when you know and have clarity of what it is you are creating, then it is a lot easier to be like, does this align with that or not? If not, no. So that's a simple way to say no. But I want to give you a powerful quote that I think is the first step to knowing how to focus and know what else to say no to. And this is a quote that, has anybody read the book? I think it's called The One Thing by Gary Keller, I think, of Keller and Williams. He founded Keller Williams. And he's also a great author who wrote several books. But this book in particular, The One Thing, is a really powerful read. If you haven't read it and you're hot on this topic right now, productivity and focus, then you should read it. Audiobook it. It's good. So he says and asks us, what's the number one thing I can do to make all else easier or unnecessary? I actually shortened the quote so it fit on the note card, but what is the number one thing that you can do to make everything else easier or completely unnecessary? That is your focus question, because when you can answer that question, you're like, you know what? I'm trying to grow my business. I've got growth goals, and the number one thing I can do is grow. Growth is going to solve everything else. I mean, that's the simple one, right? If you're like, growth solves a lot of problems. Otherwise, you can try to fix things and make things more efficient. But if you're not growing, then everything else is kind of unimportant, right? So that's a really good example. I think most of us would be like, yeah, no kidding. But what is it? You know, what are you trying to grow? What's the one thing you could do to make growth so much easier, or make everything else that you're doing to grow unnecessary, right? How can you maximize your growth? What's the minimum you can do to grow? That's the question, right? And so what's the number one thing you could do to make everything else easier or unnecessary? So think about that. What would it be? Like, really, what could your one thing be? That one thing that, you know what, if you knock that out over the next 30 days, the whole rest of the year gets a whole heck of a lot easier. Right? What is it? What is it? And this is where, once you have your one thing, okay, you've identified it. It's, I need to win this type of customer, or I need to create this type of content that would allow me to market, or whatever it is. I need to, I'm trying to think other ones other than the obvious. Well, maybe it is marketing. Maybe it's, what's one piece of content that if I created it, then I could use and reuse all that content in different ways throughout my business, right? Like, what is that one event that if I had that done, I could then use and reuse all of it? Cool? So you get the idea, right? It's just, what is that one thing that you can just maximize to the nines and just get as much out of it as possible and accelerate your forward momentum? And so one of the things I want to introduce to you is, you know, you maybe you just end with that one thing. Hey, that's the one thing. Go run hard at it. You know exactly what you need to do. Boom, and you can get it done because you know what you're doing. You've done it before. It's really just a matter of focus. You now have the focus. You can go. But before you leave, I want to say that sometimes what we want to get accomplished is big. It's hairy, audacious, right? It's a BHAG. It's a lot, right? I want to not only grow a business, but I want to have a business that's doing 100 million in sales, or I want to launch my own marketing business, or I want to double in the next year. Yeah, big goals, right? So now you're like, well, maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I've got to work on the business and put several things in place to get that accomplished. And there again, we can lose focus because you're like, oh, the goal's so big. And then we get overwhelmed because we're like, oh, I need to have marketing. I need to hire salespeople, and I need to have a website, and I need to boom, 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 boom. And it's just like, right? And I probably need to learn how to sell, so I better sign up for this sales training. And before we know it, we're just stuck on that wheel again, trying to get everything done, but not being productive. And so I want you to discipline yourself here, and I want you to pick 5 needle movers. That's it. No more than 5 things that you're going to do to accomplish your big thing. Only 5. You can only pick 5 major needle movers that you're going to get done. Everything else goes to the parking lot. So you got to pre-decide what those are, and you pour all your time and energy in them. And oftentimes they need to happen in a what's the word? Like a lateral progression. Like one needs to get done before 2. So pour all your time and energy on one until it's done. And what you'll find is you can get so much done in such a short amount of time when you focus. And so what I'm suggesting here is get focused on your one thing. Like, what is that one thing that's going to make all the difference in your life and your business? Like, what is it? Like, when I accomplish this, boom, I wake up and everything is different. Okay, wow, that's the dream. That is what I'm creating. So now how do I do that? Well, how do you do it is spend some time, and maybe one of the needle movers is I'm going to spend a period of time researching and trying to figure out how to best accomplish what I want to do. But what are the 5 things? You just 5, and knock them out of the park. No more. In fact, if that feels like a lot, start with 3. But knock them out. Like make them big. Like these are the 5 big moves you're gonna make, the 5 needle movers that you check these off the list and you put these in place, you're gonna be well on your way to accomplishing that big one thing that you've set for yourself. So I hope this helps. I do. I think what we covered today is the second of 4 components that I'm gonna introduce to you on how to be more productive with less overwhelm. And again, productive is not doing more, it's actually what's the minimum effort to get the maximum results. That's what we're all up here because, right, we've got other things we want to do. We have families, we have a life. We don't want to spend all our time at the office. We don't want to spend all our time just doing the work. We want to enjoy the fruit of that work and see something actually build and be created from our effort. And so that's why we're having this conversation. And so, it starts with focus. What is it that you're focused on right now? Because if you're not focused on the critical few, the main things, then you are running the zoo and you've got all these crazy animals coming into your office and you're reacting to everybody and everything. And those are the weeks and the months that stack up to years to where you don't really move forward in a way that you find impactful. And then we talked about the word no, right? To be productive and to have focus, it means saying no to a lot of other things. You can't have focus without having the word no. So what is it that, if you're going to choose to do this, what are you saying no to? Because you need to make some room for it. You just can't keep adding onto the pile. No wonder you're overwhelmed if that's what you do, right? So if you're going to be focused, what are you going to say no to? And I love this quote again. What's the number one thing you can do right now in your business, in your life, to make everything else easier or unnecessary? And that's what you need to build a game plan around to get it accomplished. And any game plan, I'm suggesting you limit yourself to five needle movers. Only 5 things that you're going to do to get that accomplished. Because anything more than that, you're going to be swimming. You're not going to be very effective. And I highly recommend pick 3 to 5 major moves, major needle movers to create that one thing that you feel will have the maximum impact for yourself and your goals. So I hope you found this helpful, and yeah, this is an important topic, y'all, because I want to see you guys move forward. We have goals, but how do we get there as fast as possible in the most meaningful way, in the most sustainable way too, right? It's not sustainable to try to manage 18 irons in the fire and working 70 hours a week. I mean, maybe for a short period of time, but that's not sustainable. And so that's why it's so important to get productive, to figure out how you can put forth the least amount of effort to get the most results. Why wouldn't you? And right, I'll just leave it at that. So hope you are getting something from these trainings. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Be sure to stay tuned, because we've got 2 more videos coming around this topic of productivity that I think you're going to find very, very, very helpful. So until next time.